Welcome to the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
Now let's do this.
It's just two men cheating the system by actually getting paid to talk sports.
You volunteered, didn't you? We're paying you, aren't we?
Good thing they like being heard, because we don't pay them that much.
It's like people only do things because they get paid, and that's just really sad.
The first of the duo is never shy about letting you know where he stands.
Okay, hot take, but I like your confidence.
The other promises he'll grow on you with time.
It's like a new pair of underwear. At first it's constrictive, but after a while it becomes a part of you.
Together, they're bringing you the best in Oklahoma State sports talk and their opinions on sports topics from around the country.
That's right. Listen up. Hey, listen up. You.
Patrick Wheeler.
Let's stomp these dudes.
And Zach Lancaster.
Everyone is stupid except me.
This is the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
That's what I'm talking about. Sport.
You ain't never heard nothing like this. Let me work. Show me where the mic is. I'm on stage, black shirt and my Timbs. You know how I do it. I ain't playing with you. I've been grinding. Anybody trying to sleep on me, better do something with your eyelids. I hear a lot of whining, but I don't hear a lot of rhyming. Whoa! Everybody got opinions. Let it go into my ear, then I block that. Put me on stage, I'ma rock that. Saying you the best. Stop that, phony. I am not that. Yeah. What are y'all doing out here? What are y'all doing out here? Maybe you should spend a little less time with the women on your arms and a little bit more with your career. I ain't saying I'm the best, but I should be in the top 10. Give me a list of names. I'ma top them. I'm just playing with you. I don't care what the top is. Leave me at the bottom. Let me work for it. You ain't never gonna find another rapper in the game and tell me that he works.
Welcome in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster on this Thursday. Show brought to you by Bad Brad's Barbecue.
It had to be this day.
Yes, it did.
I've only had breakfast today. I had an eye appointment at 10:30, 11, so I haven't had a chance to eat lunch. I've had a really busy afternoon, so I would have to talk about delicious barbecue.
You know you can now get breakfast?
Yeah.
Bad Brad's?
Yeah. And it sounds so good, like a brisket breakfast burrito.
That just sounds
Burn-in breakfast burrito.
I wish they would do it not 24 hours, but the entire time they're open.
24
you should
hours.
have okay, you're right. 3 a.m.
Barbecue.
Yeah.
Go get some burn-ins.
Oh, man, there's never a bad time for burn-ins. And Bad Brad's has everything you want. 5302 West 6th, now all open. They only had the drive-thru going for a while there to do renovations inside. Everything's open. Fully open dine-in. Drive-thru that includes breakfast there. Obviously, curbside pickup, take home. You can call them in call it in at 377-4141. And right now, you want to make sure and get there to order your Christmas turkey and ham. You have to do that before the 21st. You have 11 days left.
That's plenty of time.
Plenty of time.
Don't procrastinate.
Get your Christmas turkey and ham and be the hero to your holiday party.
Have you been out there? Have you seen the new?
Have
you been inside?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Oh,
it's incredible.
So I was out there before the Tulsa game, and the space is huge. They've got 2 massive rooms, and the drive-thru is an absolute stroke of genius.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's nothing like, and especially now. Now's the the day and age we're living in is the perfect day and age for a drive-thru, because there's some people that aren't comfortable with going into restaurants, and I get that, I understand that, but the drive-thru, going and picking. How many barbecue places have drive-thru windows?
Good point. Not a lot. Not a lot. Yeah.
This whole era has caused me to love eating at my house. And so there's nothing better than swinging by Bad Brad's and getting you some barbecue and taking it back to the house.
Definitely do appreciate that from Bad Brad's. Go check them out, 5302 West 6th. Appreciate them.
Oh, it's a great location, too.
It is. Perfect location.
Stillwater's expanding out west.
Really easy to get to.
Oh, yeah. They're real smart.
A lot of good stuff today on the show. Big good show coming up for everybody. Oklahoma State Baylor is a couple days away. We're going to get into that. Oklahoma State basketball, they have 1 game left in the non-conference schedule, and then it's Big 12 play already.
Which is insane.
It is. So we're going to get to that. It is very quick. A lot of good stuff coming out of the NFL. The NBA's got breaking news we're going to get to. All kinds of good stuff coming up. Buy or sell in the second hour. Should be a really good show. The Dez Bryant situation continues to evolve. I'm not kidding you. 2 hours ago, I saw more news on it.
What a stooge.
Yeah. So
don't take that hate. Don't take that the wrong way, Oklahoma State fans.
You can take it the wrong way from me. It's fine. That's my issues with Dez Bryant have been forever.
And I also I'm probably going out on a limb here, and I might alienate some people, but I don't think Dez caught it.
Finally.
I don't think he caught it.
You're the one they spoke of to come into. Okay, yeah.
I'm the chosen one.
I'm the only. Every time I say that,
I'm in the prophecies.
He didn't catch it,
I'm
man.
Harry Potter.
You are. I'm so glad you're here, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
That's Zach Lancaster. I'm Patrick Wheeler. Oklahoma State, Baylor. Let's get into it. This Saturday.
Yeah.
Now, I'm like you and every other Oklahoma State fan. I wish this game meant more. I really, really do. We all got to remember, it doesn't even seem like, but this was supposed to happen a long time ago.
Yeah,
this
October.
game. So
when it mattered.
Yeah, when it actually mattered, right? Now we're sitting here with a team in Baylor that is kind of coming together a little bit more. If you look at that score with Oklahoma, I mean, that's a team that's averaging in Oklahoma like 43 points a game. And they were basically held to half that.
I think that's why you're probably seeing this game being played. Because I think if Baylor gets blown out of the water, they lose by 30, 40, 50 points, what have you, and they don't hold Oklahoma, then they're probably like, you know what, there's really no reason to play this game. So let's just not. Because both sides have nothing to gain from this. I mean, I guess if you're Oklahoma State, you can, I don't even know if you somewhat is the right word, but you can somewhat salvage a rather cruddy season. You can end it on a win, and we've talked about it earlier this week. I think it's a must-win game from a perspective standpoint. Maybe not from a wins and losses standpoint, because they have nothing to play for in terms of a Big 12 or a CFP berth or anything like that. They're going to definitely go to a cruddy bowl game. But in terms of optics for the fans, in terms of the way they look at this coaching staff, the way they look at these outgoing players, and there's a good portion of them that'll go down as favorites of all time. Tylan Wallace is going to be a favorite. Rodarius Williams, for what he did this year, is going to be a favorite. Dylan Stoner is going to be a favorite. But there's, fans are really, really upset right now. So if Oklahoma State's able to go down to Waco and they're able to beat Baylor and they're able to win a bowl game, then the season is not a complete loss. It's still a loss, but it's not a complete loss.
Does Dylan Stoner come back after this year?
I think it depends on what he hears. If he talks to, if he gets that NFL draft grade back, because that's most players decide after they get that back or whatever. They talk to the strength staff. I think Dylan is good enough to go into, and he probably gets drafted. He's a Wes Welker type of player. He's who's that cat that played for? He's a Julian Edelman type of player. He's real sure-handed. He's not afraid to go across the middle. And bring down a pass to pick up 4 or 5 yards for a first down if he gets the ball thrown to him. But if I would like to see him come back. I don't know. I think if he goes, he's a late rounder, but he definitely makes a practice squad if he goes.
Yeah, I think he could even go undrafted and sign with the team.
Sure.
But if I were him, I would really consider coming back again. Just if I really did have NFL aspirations, I think it would be really beneficial, minus obviously an injury. You come back and Tylan's not there.
Is this heading towards quarterback play?
It could be. Maybe you read my mind a little bit.
I was going to say it, but I didn't say it.
Look, this offseason, there's going to be a battle for a quarterback.
This is if they can figure out COVID,
yeah,
and they have a full spring, and they don't have organized practices during the summer, but the players all get together. If that's the case, it's going to be a game time type decision, right? Because the way Shane grew in those 3 games, you give him an extra year, and Spencer, can Spencer get it figured out? We don't know, but I mean Shane can grow and get better. I mean, that's going to be one of the biggest quarterback battles that Oklahoma State's seen in a long time.
Yeah, no doubt. And obviously, I mean, I think that it's fair to say with the style of quarterback play, Shane would probably benefit
the receivers.
And Stoner would benefit, the most from him if he was to become the number one with no Tylan there. Now, we did see this year, when Tylan was out against K-State, it was a heavy dose of we're going to try to get the ball to Dylan Stoner. He was the most targeted receiver, most catches in that game.
Well, and you look at the other receivers coming back. You've got Braden Johnson. Yeah. You got Langston Anderson. You'll have Brennan Presley. You'll have, I would like to see Stoner come back, but I'm not going to mention him because we don't know yet. But, I mean, the receivers that Casey Dunn brings in, you can question his play calling this year, but injuries and COVID and first year, whatever, I don't care. But the receivers he brings in are some of the best in the country.
Sure.
So if you get it, if it's Spencer, if Spencer's able to figure it out and he's throwing the ball, these are NFL quality receivers, and if they need a quarterback that's consistent in hitting receivers.
It'd be interesting to see what they did with the receivers if Dillon did come back, because like you said, I think he has the ability to be a number one guy, but he is that prototypical slot guy.
Did you watch any of Oklahoma State last fall?
A little bit, yeah.
So when Tylen went down with a knee injury, they moved Dillon out to Tylen's position, and he did really, really good, which is going to be interesting because Langston Anderson is really, he has the chance. I'm not going to say it because if Tom's listening, he'll ride me till the day I die. Langston Anderson has the chance to be really, really good. He has all the qualities. He's fast. He's really strong. He's got big hands. He has the ability to go up and come down with a ball over any defender. We saw that in high school. So if Dillon comes back, it's going to be really interesting because Langston has that Tylen position.
Yeah. No, I think it will be super interesting to see what they would do in terms of trying to fit him in that system. It could be, I would say, probably pretty beneficial because, like you said, if he did go to the NFL, most likely would land on a practice squad. Would have to work his way in, whereas he could come back this is a free year. He could come back and get more on tape and maybe be that number one guy.
Well, and you look at it, next year the influencer deal goes in. He can actually make money in college next year. So hey, who knows?
And he would make plenty.
Lots of speculation here.
Yeah, for sure.
Lots of just a disclaimer for anyone out there. Like, if this caller's calling in, the hell are you talking about? Disclaimer, we're speculating.
Go to the phone lines. Caller, you're on the Afternoon Sports Drive with Patrick and Zach. What's going on?
Hey, I was dialing and you went to the point about Stoner and the way he performed last year when we lost Tylen and he became the number one. He was fantastic. And knowing that and then seeing how little he's been used this year, it's just a crime. Is it not?
No, I would completely agree because there's been every single week I have said, and you can go back on tape every single week and say, hey, you know who's open in the middle of the field?
Dylan
Stoner. You can circle it. Yeah. He's a great route runner. I think that's what's underappreciated in this offense because he works tirelessly on running those routes to perfection and does a really good job of getting open against defenders and finding soft spots in zone defenses, and it's not rewarded. So, yeah, I completely agree. On a lot of other teams, his numbers would be, through the roof compared to where they are right now.
Well, and he's not as electric as Tylen Wallace. Right. There's not many that are. But if Dillon were on any other team, and even this team, I mean, even if he got the appropriate amount of looks his way each week, I don't know where he would be at right now, but I think he would be in that Biletnikoff conversation. I'm not saying that he would win it, but he would be in the conversation because he would have the looks and he would have the numbers to prove it.
Well, what he can bring to the table is also a guy that's going to move the sticks.
Absolutely.
You can find him on third down a lot. And I feel like, especially this year, his skill set has not been properly utilized. I wouldn't be afraid to say that.
Well, yeah. The amazing thing is we have the evidence. Thanks to the terrible, unfortunate fact that Tylen got injured bad enough to have to be down for the season, it wasn't, gosh, we don't throw to this guy because he can't get open. When the number one guy, who obviously our current quarterback prefers to throw to, was gone, and he had no choice but to throw to Dillon. Dillon was amazing. His numbers were awesome. At the beginning, I think it was at the beginning of this season, it must have been, Dylan Stoner was one of the top 2 or 3 returning yards of receivers in the conference coming back to play this year. Was that not correct?
I think so. I mean, I think in terms of talent, I mean, he's got great size. He's 6 foot 200, so he is that perfect slot receiver. But he's good enough, and he has the body control that he could be that talented outside receiver. You know, and like this year, like right now, he's setting it. Or last year he had 599 yards by the end of the season. You go to 2018 with Cornelius. He finished the season with 603. So he had more yards last year. But you look at where he's at right now, he has 29 receptions for 283 yards and no touchdowns. I get that he's not Tylan Wallace, but when you have a receiver like Stoner, if he were on any other team, he would have close to 800 yards right now. Yeah. Going into the last game of the season. It's an absolute travesty that Dylan Stoner hasn't been utilized as much as he has.
Well, and because offenses need that slot guy. Yes. You know, especially, and I get it. You have a stud like Tylan Wallace. If you're Spencer Sanders, I mean, of course you would like to look at him almost every single time. But how many times have we said over and over and over that a guy like Tylan Wallace grabbing as much attention and forcing as much attention as he does? Well, of course there's going to be other guys open. A lot of the times it's Dylan Stoner.
Well, and how many times has it been Spencer in the backfield 6, 7, 8 seconds scrambling for his life trying to look? How many, like 3 or 4 of those seconds is spent trying to find Tylan open. Yeah. And by the time you get to 5, every other receiver is covered up, and you're just trying to make something happen, and then you have to scramble and lose 2 yards because you ran out of bounds to avoid a sack.
Well, yeah, I'm afraid that you're dead on there. I will tell you that in my very strong opinion, our good little friend, Mr. Spencer Sanders, is not our quarterback in the future. It's too late to say, well, he might figure it out. Well, he might get better. Well, he might improve. He's been here long enough. He's had more than enough chances. He's been in enough games. And every now and then, he looks really good. Most of the time, he just doesn't. We've got indisputable, proven weapons like Dylan Stoner that are not being allowed to help our team have an offense. That poor, pathetic situation where in our last game, where we had one of the defensive performances of the century by an individual player on our team, and not just him, several others as well. And we handed it over to our poor, pathetic offense, who went 3 and out and sent them defense back out onto the field numerous times. It's not about head coach Mike Gundy. This young fellow, Sanders, doesn't have it. He is not the guy. He's not the guy.
And that's what's frustrating about it, because Spencer is athletic enough. He has the talent. It's all mental.
How many times did he try to run it in that last game to no avail, for no results?
No, for sure, and that's what's frustrating, because he has the talent, and he's athletic enough. He has the arm strength. You know, I don't know if you watched his high school tape, but it was just insane what he was able to do in high school, and it hasn't translated. And I agree. He's been here for 3 years. He's had more than enough time. I think right now, obviously, you look at Shane, and he hasn't played. There's been several weeks this season where he hasn't been available simply because of COVID or because of injury or whatever. And so Spencer, I think, gives you the best chance to win right now. I understand they're not winning, but it's gonna. I think this spring's gonna be a lot of fun, because the might is what is exciting with Spencer. He might get better. He could get better. I don't know if he will get better, but I'd bet, and I think it's one of your buy or sells, so I'm going to steal it real quick. But the three of us talked about it yesterday with Tom. If Spencer can't get it done in the first quarter, if he struggles to move the ball, because it wasn't the offensive line's fault. The offensive line has been relatively decent the past 3 or 4 weeks. They haven't been great, but they've been decent. If Spencer can't get it done in the first 4 or 5 drives, they're stalling out, 3 and out, 4 and out, 5 and out, whatever. I see no reason that Shane Illingworth shouldn't be on that field.
So what I keep saying is that patience for quarterbacks doesn't exist anymore. Especially, you have to be able to perform pretty quickly into your career at the next level. Every single, from high school to college to if you get to the NFL, the patience level is at an all-time low, and I understand it because you need success with an offense right away, and there's always going to be another guy up. And just like the caller just said, there's so many times. That's what I've said it this year. There's so many times where Spencer has made the occasional play on the ground throwing the football, and it's like, man, that looks really good.
So I just saw this tweet, and it's really interesting to talk about because it goes right along with this game. So there's a reporter. His name's David Smoke. He works with Sikkim 365 Radio. That's the same network that Pokes Report is now on. He tweeted out at 2:36. He said, "I've learned Baylor football had 3 of their 5 offensive coaches test positive for COVID as of just a few minutes ago," and this was at 2:36.
There we go.
Doesn't have any further details. That was 49 minutes ago. He said he's also learned, as of right now, the game is still on, but it's Thursday. So there's still another, like Oklahoma State tests tomorrow, but there's still another day before that game. So I'm not saying that it could happen, but if that's accurate and 3 of 5 of the offensive coaches have tested positive, we could be seeing Baylor say, maybe we don't want to play this ball game no more. So yeah.
Well, so back to OSU football. Coach Dunn, we all know the man just recruits Biletnikoff winners. And so we've got 2 or 3 classes worth of Casey Dunn recruited wide receivers sitting on the sideline doing nothing because even our good experienced receivers aren't getting thrown to. Only one guy gets thrown to for the huge majority of the most part, Tylan Wallace. And here's the other thing. Tylan Wallace makes these circus catches, but the sad thing is Tylan Wallace has to make circus catches to make catches with the balls that are being thrown to him. Do you interpret what I just said? I mean, the dude is
I think that has been the case a lot because there has been multiple times where the ball is either thrown behind him or it's thrown too late or whatever, and you do appreciate Tylan even having that ability to go up and, you get him in one-on-one situations. A lot of times the ball can't be perfect, and he's going to have to go make a play. And Tylan's one of those guys that makes quarterbacks look better, and I think that's going to be something that even translates to the next level depending on who he lands with. If he lands with the team with the average quarterback, he'll make plays to make your quarterback look better. So yeah, I agree. I mean, you're preaching to the choir here, caller, when you talk about the quarterback situation with Spencer. I tried to give him a lot of leeway coming into this year and after he got injured, but my patience has run out. I mean, it really has. There's been times every single game where I feel like I'm picking on him, but man, if we don't get solid play out of your quarterback with the offense that you do have available, because there's still some good players out there, man. They should be scoring a lot more than that.
Well, and that's what's going to be exciting about the spring. Even if there's not a traditional spring football, I think we've learned that we can keep players isolated and we can keep players tested negative each week. So I think there's going to be some semblance of a spring football because we've seen it all throughout the fall. Been really, really successful. At the times that we've seen Shane Illingworth on the field this fall, there have been a lot of freshman moments. You can see his time clock's not there yet. He has good mechanics, but he kind of rushes a throw sometimes, and he overthrows it and he underthrows it. You can see that youth. So but the times that he's been really good has been like, wow, this kid has a really, really bright future. So you give Shane more time and you give him a full spring with coaching staffs and weight room with Rob Glass and Tim Rattay, and then you give him summer workouts. I think going into fall ball, I think Spencer is going to have a really big chore on his hands because I think unless Shane just completely blows up and takes over in the spring, I think there's going to be a battle going in because Spencer is the guy. Whether fans like it, whether I like it, or anyone else likes it or not, Spencer is the guy moving forward. He's athletic enough and he can make plays. But I think going into fall football, I think Spencer needs to be worried because I think Shane's going to give him a hell of a run for his money.
Well, I think he is too, because our offense is being hamstrung by Spencer Sanders. We're not being capable of doing the things we are capable of doing because our quarterback can't accomplish it. Illingworth fits the mold of Whedon and the Pittsburgh Steeler fellow that came to us from South Carolina, whose name I can't say at this second.
Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph. Sorry, Mason. Yeah, he fits the Mason Rudolph, Brandon Whedon mold. Big, tall, big arm, throw it downfield. That is what we do at OSU. I mean, that is our formula for the best success that we've ever had in the history of this program. He fits that mold.
No, absolutely, and we appreciate the phone call. It's given us a lot to talk about, and something we talked about yesterday with Tom. That Oklahoma State, the most success Oklahoma State has had is when you have the big stand back their quarterback, drop back and heave it down the field. Heave it across. Mason Rudolph, Mike Gundy was a pass first quarterback. They were really good. I get you had Barry Sanders and Thurman Thomas, but he was still a really good quarterback. Still to this day holds Big 8 records. They'll always stand.
Yeah.
And then Mason Rudolph. You know, those three quarterbacks, you had the most success in program history. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope Spencer proves us wrong. I hope he has a big spring, and I hope he figures it out. I hope I'm wrong, but I will say I am looking forward to Shane Illingworth.
Yeah, I think I am too, for sure. It should be a fun battle. Keep an eye on the spring, no doubt. Show today brought to you by Bad Brad's Barbecue. Go check them out. Order your Christmas turkey or ham. Deadline is December 21st, so make sure you get that done. Christmas is right around the corner, and you don't want to be without it.
No,
that's for sure.
You need it.
You need it. You need it. Even if you didn't know you need it, you need it.
You don't want to go fight the stores to get you a bird or a ham. And do you really want to if you're gonna have a good Thanksgiving or a good Christmas, and you're gonna have less than the amount that should be in your house, you're gonna have a big bird. Do you really want to be in the kitchen all morning on Christmas cooking a 15-pound bird?
No, you do not. No, you do not.
You go buy a delicious turkey or ham from Bad Brad's.
Do it. Get it done. It's the Afternoon Sports Drive. We're back. We'll take a look at Baylor a little bit closer here when we come back, as well as get into an interesting story out of college football involving bowl games. Much more to come here on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Yeah. Run it back. Tell them what I'm coming at. I was on the hit there, now I'm done with that. Scared of what I didn't want, scared of what I wanted, and thought that I was finished, but I hardly had begun.
Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network show brought to you by Bad Brad's Barbecue. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster on this amazing Thursday. And joining us now, special guest, our OSU standout star on the diamond,
Peach Cobber.
Old Trey Cobb is joining us. Trey, what's going on, man?
What's up? I was just wanting to talk a little bit about the last caller that you guys had, talking about the quarterback situation.
Oh yeah.
I don't know anything about football besides the fact that I'm a fan. I watch a ton of it, but I don't get paid for my opinion. I would never say that the coaches are doing stuff wrong because that's their job. But it seems to me the way Spencer plays quarterback is like what you see when you see that guy dominate for 3 years in college football as like a scrambler, and he's super agile, and the NFL comes to him his junior year and says, hey, we really need to see you stand in the pocket and throw. And you see that senior year where they just look awkward and they force everything. That's what I feel like it is. And for me with Spencer, he's so athletic and so fast, and I feel like he's trying to just be that NFL prospect quarterback. And in my opinion, it should be, here's your first read. If it's not there, run for your life.
Well, what's the main difference this year with the quarterback position at Oklahoma State? You have an NFL style quarterback coach. You no longer have the run and gun offensive coordinator like a Mike Yurcich or what was his name last year? Sean
Gleason.
Yeah, Sean Gleason. Yeah. You no longer have the college quarterback turned offensive coordinator. You have wide receiver coach, offensive coordinator who wants his receivers to get the ball. You have talented running backs, and you have an NFL style quarterback coach in Tim Rattay. And I think Tim Rattay is really good. I think Tim Rattay, if they can retain him, I think is gonna pay huge dividends for this program, especially when it comes time for Shane Illingworth to shine. But we're seeing that NFL pro style quarterback style with Spencer Sanders because of Rattay. And I'm not blaming Rattay. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. But you're, like you just said, you're taking a quarterback. Like, I know you've seen his high school tape. Spencer Sanders could do anything and everything he wanted against anybody on the field. You know, he was getting 150, 160, 170 rushing yards and 400 yards through the air, and he was out by the third quarter. That's not the case in college, and now all of a sudden you have a new, you know, we saw him, he was more athletic last year, and he was he was figuring it out more before he got injured. And now you're changing his style up to where he's standing in the pocket. Spencer doesn't stand in the pocket. He, you know, and that's where we're seeing the 5, 6, 7 seconds back there that's getting him into trouble. And if he can't find anything, all the receivers are covered. He takes off and gets forced out of bounds 2 yards behind the line. And that's not going to get anything done.
Right, and you can't say, you know, you can't go to him and say, hey man, you've got this awesome arm, which we all know he does.
Mm-hmm.
You've got these legs that you could run for days. Everybody knows it. But sorry, we have to win games. We have to handicap your development and just say, look for one read if it's not their run.
Right.
And I think that, you know, they would win games doing that, but you can't do that to a kid. You can't say, okay, and that's what the fan base wants, and watching the games, it's what I want too. It's like, just go. You know, you're so fast, you're so athletic, just go. But you're completely handicapping a kid's development when you do that. And, you know, obviously number one in your program is you need to win, but 1A is send kids to the pros, you know, graduate them. Coaches will tell the media it's, you know, 1A is graduate and send to the NFL, 1B is win. But that's not true. You know, you don't keep your job because you're graduating your players.
No, just look at Vanderbilt.
Right. Yeah. You lose your job if you lose games. And so you can't handicap them and say, this is what you need to do. You need to run as soon as you can.
Well, and that style just doesn't work in the pros. I mean, I'm not going to compare the two talent-wise because the guy won a Heisman and he won an MVP in the league. But Lamar Jackson, you know, he's struggling right now. He's, you know, because the NFL is just not a run-first league.
Well, it's the same thing. In the NFL, you have, you know, a few elite quarterbacks that can run with the ball. You know, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, maybe, but that's about it. It's a pass-first league,
absolutely,
and it is in college football too anymore. I mean, you have to. The air raid offense has taken over. So if that's not the game plan, the plan of attack, it's not going to be easy to win ball games. And I think the Big 12 is transitioning into that. Hey, Trey, while we have you, we were talking about Dylan Stoner earlier as well. Should he come back for another year, or should he try for the NFL?
You know, I think that's really up to him and, you know, his body and his health and where he thinks he's at. You know, if I'm Dylan, I'm going through as much of that legal process as I can, just kind of figure out where I fit. You know, and other things, and if I have that shot, which, you know, I think that he, you know, seems like he would fit into an offense where there's 3 other guys that are absolute elite athletes that can get open, and he is the kind of knife that just runs around and you know, does his thing. And it's just a matter of do that whole process, and if they say yes, then go, and if they don't, then it comes down to, you want to go put on a suit and tie, or you want to keep wearing a uniform. And I think everybody picks the uniform on that one as long as you're healthy.
No doubt. And you know, we talked about it, and it's an interesting situation because this year, through this point in the season, Stoner has less than 300 receiving yards, and I think it was 23 or 26 receptions on the season. I think 26, and no touchdowns. You know, you go back to last year and he had over 600. You go back to the year before that and he had 599. So I think if you're a GM or you're a scout, I think you can look at the facts and say it's not his fault that he has just a touch over 220 receiving yards. Because you look at what he did the year before, you look at what he did the year before that. I think Dylan is good enough to play in the NFL. I think that if he I think he gets drafted, and if he late, and if he doesn't, he goes undrafted, and he still makes a practice squad. I don't think there's any way Dylan doesn't make an NFL team. But I think if you're Dylan, you look. I think, like you said, health-wise and body-wise is obviously huge. Can he do it? Can he come back and play another year of college football? And I think that he would benefit from coming back another year. Obviously, you have that free year. But if you also look at it, you have, the influencer deal takes place, and players can start making money. So it's, if he comes back, not only does he benefit from either another year older Spencer Sanders or another year Shane Illingworth, but he can make money off his likeness. And I tell you right now, Dylan Stoner is probably top 5 fan favorite for Oklahoma State fans, and Dylan would make a
he'd be fine.
Of money.
He'd be fine. Trey, speaking of wide receivers, it's kind of a two-parter here. Does Tylen play on Saturday, and in your opinion, should he even play on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. I was listening to you guys yesterday.
That's nice.
Talking to, I think it's Frank from the Tulsa World, right?
Yep, yeah. Frank, yep.
Yeah, so you guys were talking to him yesterday about this situation, and it's obviously different because of the team aspect, right? So the fans say, you're letting your team down, this and that. But when you look at it without that team aspect, which in reality, you can't say this doesn't exist because it does. But if you're taking a class, and that is the hardest class on campus, and you need, that grade, if you get an A in this class, you get the best job in the world. And if you get a B, you go home and you work, at McDonald's, right? And they say, Tylen, you already have an A in this class. You don't have to take your final, and we'll see you later. Yep. Or you can take your final and get an A+ in the class, but if you fail it, you get a B. I'm saying, get me out of here, right? I'm not taking that final. I'm not taking that chance.
Absolutely.
And with him and having to prove, the knee's okay, he'll do that when he goes to those workouts, and they see him move and they see him work, and he's got so much tape out there, and I think that everybody on that team, and he's done enough for the university I think everybody would really respect that decision. And me, as the diehard Oklahoma State homer I am in baseball, man, I would have probably done the same thing.
This for Tylen is a really sticky situation, because I see it from all aspects. Now, I will say, if you listened yesterday, you heard me say it. If I had a direct line to Tylen and he listened to me and everything I said, I tell Tylen to call it quits. You tweak the knee that you injured last year. There's no reason for you to go back out there. You're going to make millions and millions and millions of dollars. There's no reason to risk it in a no-win situation kind of game. You're not playing for a Big 12 title game. You're not going to make it into a Big 12 title game. There's no hopes for a college football playoff. You don't need to play a struggling Baylor team that has a better defense than TCU. You need to go home. You need to relax. You need to rehab just a bit, get that knee back to 100%. You need to work out, and you need to train, and you need to go into high draft pick. Knowing Tylen, I've said I think Tylen plays. He exudes that, teammate mentality. I love Oklahoma State. They gave me my shot, this and that. So I think he plays. But then again, I could see him benefiting from showing that his knee is healthy. I could see him benefiting from going out if Spencer can, whoever the quarterback is, can get him 120, 130 yards and a touchdown or two. That only helps your Biletnikoff chances. That looks good to NFL scouts, and the GM say, hey, listen, he tweaked his knee last week and he came out this week and put up 120 yards. But he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to, and he's proved everything. It's not, he came back this year and, in my opinion, played better than he did last year. And he had the same quarterback, but he had a worse quarterback situation this year than he did last year. Yeah. And he's played better.
Trey, while we have you on, I want to flip it over and ask you, what do you think so far about this Oklahoma State basketball team we've seen?
Oh, they've been fun to watch. We've got guys coming off the bench that are making impact plays. And that's what's so refreshing this year. Last year and guys before, we had good shooters, we had a good team, and I love Lindy, Cam, and those guys. But it's nice to have more than one guy that can go get a bucket if he needs it, and I think that's where this team is really going to succeed. And the only thing that scares me so far has been the inability to stop the first guy on the scouting report.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would think, obviously, we played the Oral Roberts Golden State Warriors, but, I mean, you let a 5 guard, when your point guards are 6'4" and 6'8", go off for like 39 points.
Yeah.
You know, you don't think that you know, it's a little worrisome. But in my opinion, I think that they're just making that adjustment. In high school, when you challenge those shots, you don't have to be there on the catch in high school. You have to be there on the attempt. You know, they kind of catch it on the perimeter, and you give them that little fake nothing hand, and then when they go up, you get there.
Yep.
College, you have to be there on the catch, or it's too late. And I think that they're going to figure that out. And honestly, these smaller schools usually shoot it better than the Big 12 anyway, because they have, you know, the 5'10" guy that had no shot, nobody wanted him.
He played at some 2A school.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he's playing D1 basketball, because he can shoot the lights out of the gym. When you're playing Texas and there's a 6'7" shooting guard that can, you know, dunk over everybody on the court, probably not going to make 10 threes in one game.
Trey, last thing here real quick. Give us an update on, first of all, how's the family doing, and as well as where you are with the Mets and everything right now.
Yeah, the family's doing good. Olivia decided to tackle the Christmas tree last night.
I saw that tweet as we were calling you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
So that was a big issue. She went for an ornament, and then the whole thing came down right on top of her. So she was cool. She didn't cry. She didn't say anything. But Christmas tree's probably getting taken down this weekend.
I was about to ask if you guys were gonna put it up on get a couple of cinder blocks or something and put it up off the ground.
Yeah, it might just be the higher impact, the higher we put it up. She's gonna find a way to get to it. But yeah, the stuff with the Mets is going well. We had the Rule 5 draft today, which is kind of like that first round of minor league free agency, and the Mets put me on their AAA roster to protect me from that. So
it's always a nice feeling.
Yeah, guess that means that, you know, they like me enough to not let anybody else get me. So I'll take it.
Yeah, for sure. Trey, thanks so much for joining us, man. I appreciate it as always, and of course we'll get you on again here soon. And here's to hoping that Oklahoma State football can maybe turn it around. If not, we always got basketball.
Trey will get some Thai cafe and go set at a park 10 feet apart.
Yeah, there we go. That sounds great.
My treat. I'll even buy for you.
Oh, wow. What a treat.
I know.
All right.
Trey, thanks, man.
Later.
See you, bud.
All right, that's Trey Cobb, former OSU pitcher and now in the Mets organization. You can follow him on Twitter at Cobber_22. Yeah, good stuff.
Have I told you the story about when me and Trey first went to Thai Cafe?
I don't think I've heard that one.
Okay, so Trey was already there, and he was sitting in the back of the corner, like the back of the restaurant in the corner by the restrooms. And he was just like, let me know when you get here and I'll meet you out front. And so I come in and I walk in the front door, and I think she's the owner, but it's the lady that sits in the front and takes you to your tables and gives you your menu and all that stuff, takes your money.
The hostess.
I walk in and she's like, your friend's around the corner. Like just immediately, like as soon as I walk in, she's just friends around the corner. I hadn't said anything. He hadn't said, like I got back there and he was like, how'd you know where I was sitting? I was like, did you tell the lady what I look like or anything? He's like, no, I just came and sat down and said I'm waiting on a friend. And I was like, well, she knew I was here to meet you, and it was the freakiest thing I had ever been a part of.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, we love having Trey on anytime he can do it. I did. I just saw that tweet too about his daughter taking the Christmas tree down. Good to hear that she's okay, but tough girl, obviously.
I'm curious if it's a real tree or a fake tree, because a real tree I feel would be softer than a fake tree.
Something we didn't
smell better.
We're gonna have to find that out from Trey.
Trey, I know you're listening.
Yeah, let us know.
Bud.
Yeah, let us know what went on there. When we come back on the afternoon sports drive, we'll round out the first hour and take a look at a little bit more about what Baylor has to offer here on this Saturday coming up. Oklahoma State football in hour number 2, buy or sell. College football stories we got to get to, as well as a couple out of the NFL. Des Bryant continues to be Des Bryant, everybody. That's coming up next too as well on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. We're back after this.
Whoa.
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Here on this Thursday, getting ready to round out the first hour show, brought to you by Bad Brad's Barbecue. 5302 West 6th Street. Call them at 377-4141 for everything you need barbecue wise, man, just sounds amazing. It really does.
So I'm not supposed to be spending money on eating out?
Yeah. Well,
I might.
If you needed to break the rules,
might swing by tonight.
This is breaking the rules right here. This is worth breaking the rules. Now, let's take a real quick look here at Baylor. We'll talk more about them tomorrow, but as we talked about in the first segment, this is a team that is kind of coming more into their own. Mm-hmm. And I personally, I like Charlie Brewer. There's a lot of things he does well, I think. They've been in a really, and a lot of it's been their fault. They've been in a really weird situation with COVID, not being able to play a lot of times. Really weird situation, with all of that. But, this is a team as well that is kind of trying to find their run game. They've used a lot of different guys running the football. This was an Oklahoma State defense last week, by the way, that couldn't stop the run as much. Last 2 weeks, that's for sure. And so that's why you come into this one and say you think they should be able to stop the run here, then focus more on what Charlie Brewer can do, because he can hurt you. And it's just the more impressive part to me. I know the record's not great. They beat Kansas State by 1 and then beat Kansas. So those you can kind of take as, okay, hit or miss games there. And they come into Oklahoma and give up only 27, I think it was, which to me they take that as a win.
That's not start of the season Oklahoma.
No, they take that as a win against a really good Oklahoma offense. So they're not a team you can just push to the side. But I also said this a few weeks ago before this stretch started, that Oklahoma State should be able to win these last 3 games. Texas Tech, TCU, and Baylor should all be wins. 100%. Really, there's 100%. No reason. So I'm not sure how confident everybody is in this one against Baylor, but it's just like Eamon brought up yesterday. Hey, this team is coming along a little bit more. They deserve more respect than what they got at the beginning of the year. Charlie was also dealing with injury issues. Now he's good to go. So it's not going to be a cakewalk for Oklahoma State. That's for sure.
No, and especially with the offensive struggles that Spencer and the run game had last week. For me, play calling is going to be the big key.
Yeah.
Because I get that Oklahoma State couldn't run the ball. I get that they couldn't move the ball. But when you're calling the same plays over and over and over and over again on consecutive drives over and over and over again, run, pass, punt, I don't care if they load the box or not. You ain't going to do anything. You got to switch it up. You got to change it. And so it's going to be interesting to see if any of those seniors play. It's going to be interesting to see if the juniors play. It's going to be interesting to see what the running back situation is going to look like. I don't know if Chuba plays. We haven't heard yet. I could see him setting out again. If LD is back, LD's been a workhorse all year. Des Jackson has proven to be a workhorse. The offensive line is better than they have been all season, I guess, because they struggled since the beginning. So you should be able to get decent run play. Whether that happens or not, it's yet to be seen because they can't move the ball. But the defense, I think this should be a pretty big game for the defense.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to seeing if this defense can continue, because they gave up some good yardage against TCU, but they held them to under 30 points.
Yeah. You want to see them eliminate the big play.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the big one right there.
That's the biggest thing you want to see out of the defense this game against Baylor. We come back. Hour number 2 is on deck here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. We're going to get into buy or sell, a lot more as well in the NFL, college football, all still to come here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Show brought to you by Bad Brad's Barbecue. We're back after this.
I don't know how we make it out when we make that on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wondering why it's so cold. How we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wondering why it's so cold. Why you so icy cold? My tears can't drip. Sitting awake alone, tattoos I miss. If I was to call your phone, I know you'd click. Maybe can have the throne, I call it quits. You can even have my car, I don't need it. I've been inside my room since you left it.
It's hour number 2 of the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Show brought to you by Bad Brad's Barbecue, 5302 West 6th. Call them at 377-4141. And we talked about the turkeys and hams you can get. You can also get prime rib for Christmas. A 5 to 6 pound prime rib. That'll make it extra special. They're only smoking 10 of them, though. So a first come, first serve. It's a really good deal. $125. That's a really good deal.
That's a lot of prime rib.
A lot of prime rib. Perfect Christmas dinner.
Rib,
Call them, but make sure you get it done quickly because they're only doing 10.
That's a prime deal on prime rib.
That was good. We're going to go to the phone line call. You're on the Afternoon Sports Drive. What you got?
You guys have enjoyed listening the last 30 minutes or so, and it is interesting, but I think we've pretty much come to accept our program has a good chance to do well like once every 3 years. Not well, but maybe a chance to win the conference. And I think most people would agree we kind of missed our shot this year.
Oh, yeah.
So in trying to look down the road, not just at next year or some of the micro stories regarding the rest of this season, which really won't make a difference to the average fan, the story's already been written about this year. Looking down the road, the question I have for you, at least 2 years down the road, if not 3, is are you okay with not recruiting a quarterback in the current list? Now, you have a situation with Coach Gundy where the best you can say is he's got average fan support compared to other coaches around the country, and now we're bringing in the father-son dynamic, which has a big record of failure.
Yeah, it's a good topic.
It may put you in a hard spot.
No.
Do you think we're doing the right thing?
No, that's okay.
Another quarterback.
Yeah, we'll take a look at. Thanks for the phone call.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I think that's actually a really good question because Gunner, the father-son dynamic is going to be interesting. But here's the thing. Shane Illingworth, while Gunner is a really good quarterback, Shane Illingworth is a better quarterback. And if you look at it, I like not recruiting. Maybe not like, but I'm okay with not recruiting a quarterback in this class because Shane Illingworth has a free year. Shane Illingworth is going to be a freshman next fall. So you bring a quarterback in right now, he's going to be a freshman in the fall. And you're going to have Shane Illingworth freshman in the fall, and you're going to have Gunnar Gundy freshman on campus in January. Well, I think he's on campus, but he'll be in the program in January. So I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with not recruiting a quarterback simply because Illingworth is going to be a freshman in the fall.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
Sure.
Now, going back to the first part, I don't think it was a question, but it was just more of a statement. It is really interesting because Oklahoma State, it is every 2 to 3, 4 years. Mike Gundy is the head coach, and I think Mike Gundy is going to be the head coach for as long as Mike Gundy wants to be the head coach, unless they have a couple of losing seasons in a row, knock on wood. But I was on with Colby Daniels this morning on his podcast. You cannot argue the fact of what Mike Gundy has done, and it goes back to what Gundy said, and I think it was either this Monday. I think it was this Monday. It was after the TCU game when Gundy was asked by Garen Emig about the disappointment of there's been, I think Baylor is the fifth different team or fourth or fifth different team to play in a Big 12 title game that hasn't been Oklahoma State. And most of those teams Oklahoma State beat going into their Big 12 title game. And so, but Mike Gundy, is it disappointment that you are so successful, but yet you can't be in that game? And Gundy said, well, I'll take success every time. I'll take those 9-10 seasons because you look at what Gundy did, and I understand the argument. Well, Les Miles, look what he did, and LSU came calling. I don't care who you are. 95% of the head coaches in college football right now, if LSU came calling, if Notre Dame came calling, Clemson, Alabama, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, USC, if those schools call, guess what? They're gone. I don't care how. Like if Alabama called Matt Campbell at Iowa State, Matt Campbell's going to Alabama to be the head coach.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but you look at the program when Les Miles took over, and you look at the program when Gundy took over. How successful has Mike Gundy been? Now, I understand the argument of, well, he's only won one Big 12 title. He's only had one shot to make a national championship, and the NCAA screwed him out of that. I agree with that. They should have been in the national championship game back in 2011. But you can't argue how successful and how good and what Mike Gundy has turned this program into. And I said it, you look at the players that Les Miles recruited to Oklahoma State. Mike Gundy got rid of a good amount of them because they weren't who Mike Gundy wanted as people. But the players that Les Miles recruited, and even to an extent the first 3 or 4 years of Gundy's program, never knew Oklahoma State success. They didn't. Now, those kids were like, what, 7 or 8, 6, 7, 8, back when Oklahoma State was good in the 80s, and then they went through a terrible period in the 90s. And then you look at the program now, every single kid that Mike Gundy and his program recruits, they have only known Oklahoma State success. So Mike Gundy has taken a stepping stone program and turned it into a nationally relevant, national type of powerhouse type program that is going to be talked about. You go back 10, 15, 20 years, no one talked about Oklahoma State because they weren't relevant. Now, can Mike Gundy win a national championship? I don't know. This year was a bit of a conundrum. It's a weird year because you dealt with abnormal amount of injury on the offensive line and turnover, which that's going to decimate any team in any program in any era, no matter how good, when you're having to put freshmen and redshirt freshmen in and you're dealing with injury all season long. But Chuba was a weird situation. We don't know if it's mental. He dealt with injury a lot. The defense was lights out. You put that, and then obviously Spencer Sanders was up and down all year long. But you go back to the pep rally they held in January or February, Oklahoma State, even going before Dylan Galloway medically retired, Oklahoma State had a legitimate chance to make a college football playoff. I'm not saying they would have, but they had a legitimate chance to win a Big 12 title, and they had a legitimate chance to make the college football playoff. Because of Oklahoma State, we saw it all year long. With how well Oklahoma State played, at times, if they play that if Spencer figures it out, and if Chuba is half as good as he was last year, that's what, 21, that's 1,100 yards. If the receivers are good and the offensive line isn't completely decimated, you combine that with the defensive play you got, Oklahoma State wins a Big 12 title and they make the college football playoff. Yeah. As it is, you had COVID, you had no spring ball, you had no summer ball, so you could say that the coaches were to blame. You could say that COVID was to blame. You could say that injury was to blame. We'll never know if Oklahoma State was good enough to win a championship this year because it just didn't happen. Yeah. And so this was their best chance to win a national champion or to make a college football playoff this year. Maybe not win a national championship, but make a college football playoff. And it didn't happen. Is this team going to be as good as it was next year as it was this year? Probably not. But you never know. Things can happen. But it's a lot of what if hypothetical type situations. Can Mike Gundy win a championship? I don't know. Yeah. We'll never. This was a good year, and we just don't know.
This was the chance. I mean, I think. Well, championship I think is a little far fetched.
Well, Big 12 title.
Yeah, Big 12 title,
and then make the playoffs.
Yeah. That was and I look coming into this season, I had a reasonable hope for the team that they would have a real shot at a playoff spot. I know that's asking a lot because there's only 4 spots, and the playoff committee is really stingy with who they put in, so it would be asking a lot. All right, let's get into it.
Are you buying?
I'd buy that for $1.
Or are you selling?
You pick up the phone and you sell.
This is Buy or Sell on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Make money, make money.
Buy or Sell Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster. All right, Zach, you're going first today.
Really?
Yeah. I'll let you
2 days in a row.
Oh, was it 2 days in a row?
Oh, my gosh.
I lost count.
Buy or sell, Dylan Stoner has more than 5 catches against Baylor.
Buy because I
don't think Tylen's
going to play.
So if he doesn't, so here's another one. If Tylen doesn't play, do they move Dylan out to outside receiver, or do we see Dylan stay in that slot position?
I think they do probably move him to the outside.
Okay.
Even though, honestly, I really think he's more comfortable with that slot spot because honestly, that position goes really undervalued sometimes because it's one thing to have a deep threat and a guy that can make a big play down the field, But, man, on a nice, methodical drive, you really love those guys like Dylan Stoner that can, run your drag routes and they can, run your hitch routes and get back to the ball and make plays on third down. So, but if Tylen plays, I would say sell. I think he finishes with 3 to 4 catches probably. I would love to see a game where Tylen gets his and Dylan Stoner gets his because we're throwing the ball enough to where we can spread it around, and those two guys who should be right around probably the 7-8 plus mark catching the football each, and I would love to see Dylan Stoner get a touchdown. But I'm asking a lot.
When you're throwing the ball, 25 to 30 times a game, there is no reason that you can't get Dylan and Tylen both their catches. And so I
agree.
I still think I'm still going with I think Tylen plays. I hope I'm wrong. Tylen gives you the best chance as a receiver for yardage and touchdowns. So I still think he plays. I hope he doesn't, simply because there's no reason for it, and I don't want him to get injured, and I want him to make his money. I think even if he plays, I think Dylan. I'm going to buy it. I think Dylan gets at least 5. We see him get looks. And it's just I think Spencer is able to kind of figure it out just a little bit and have a better game than he did against TCU.
It'd be one thing if we were talking about a receiver that's not getting himself open.
Kind of like, and not even that, but kind of like Landon. Like Landon Wolf is really good, but Landon doesn't get the looks I think Landon should get, or even the the outside, your outside receivers, D. Anderson and stuff like that. So. But you start to get to that right side, Tylen is going to get his looks. I think if it were up to Spencer, Tylen would get, 14, 15 looks a game.
Oh, he'd get 20 targets a game.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So I'm going to buy it. I think he gets 5.
All right. Buy or sell that Desmond Jackson will handle over 25 touches against Baylor.
That's a lot of touches. I think,
but he's done it back-to-back games.
I think it all depends on if LD is out there. If LD plays, I'll sell it. So I'm going to cheat here. If Dez is the lone back like he was against Tech and the way he was against TCU, I'll buy it. Mm-hmm. If LD is available and LD is healthy the way he was at the start of the year, I'll sell it. Because I think that LD is going to get a good amount of carries.
I'm with you on the exact same thing. Yeah. Because I think that Dez probably, even if LD is going to play, Dez is still probably going to be your primary guy. I bet he gets the start because I'm writing Chuba off.
I think he gets 18. Like if LD plays, I think he gets anywhere between 18, 19, and 22, 23. And then LD gets maybe half that.
Okay.
I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to. So I guess I would buy it even if LD does play. They love what they're seing out of Des Jackson right now. He's going to get a steady diet.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah,
I'm not complaining.
No, I wouldn't either. What else you got?
Will we see a healthy workload from LD Brown on Saturday?
I saw that. Yeah, and I think
healthy relative.
Yeah, I think he's probably a lot closer to playing than he was last week.
Absolutely.
And I think he probably will play. So healthy workload, yeah. I mean, I think they mix him in, and they want to mix him in. If you look at what he and Dez bring to the table in terms of their running styles, there's a lot of similarities. So you could almost use a 1-1-A punch there a little bit, and so I think he will get a healthy workload. I'm thinking maybe just south of 15 touches.
Sure. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
And maybe they get him involved in the passing game as well, too, on a screen or something like that. So, I'll go ahead and buy that he gets a nice, healthy workload.
I'll buy that as well. I'm thinking anywhere between 11 and 13 touches. I'm not saying he's going to get 100 and 125 yards, but I think he gets 11 to 13 touches, maybe 65, 70 yards, a touchdown or something. Because LD was... Other than Tom Hutton and Rodarius Williams, LD is one of the most improved players on the team, and he's been good. He's been decent in his career, but LD this year, if you don't have LD with the unhealthy and whatever his mindset is with Chuba, hey, you lose more than 3 games. Well, I guess we see Dez a little bit earlier, but we don't know what he would have done. But you don't have a healthy LD, I think you lose 4 or 5 games. Easy.
Kansas State, a lot of the credit can go to LD for that win. A lot of the credit.
Absolutely.
Buy or sell. We hit on this a bit earlier as well. Buy or sell that we do see Shane Illingworth at some point against Baylor.
Yeah, I'm buying. I think we do. And it, whether Spencer is struggling or not. Now, if Spencer goes out and he's just lights out, first half he's 14 of 18 for 200 yards, probably not. I think you'll see Spencer. But history would tell us that we're probably not going to get a 14 of 18 for 200 yards Spencer Sanders in the first half.
Yeah.
I think Spencer... I think he probably plays a little bit better than he did against TCU. Spencer couldn't move the ball. Spencer, when he absolutely had to, Spencer turned it on and played really well at the end of the game when they needed points.
Sure.
Where was that all game? So, but I'm buying. I think we see Shane at some point, because I just don't know. I'm not confident that Spencer's going to play well enough.
Same. I'm going to buy too, because this is an improved Baylor defense. Not great by any means. Like, oh my gosh, we can't score on them, but they're improved. And the way Oklahoma State's offense has been moving, I think he can find a way.
Hope I'm wrong.
Get in there. I do too. I want Spencer to have a great game, but
Spencer, I'll still ride it until it's no longer accurate. Spencer, with how athletic he is, and like Trey said, with his strong arm, Spencer gives you the best chance to win.
Agreed.
So I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Hope I'm wrong.
What's the last one you got?
James Harden, we all know he's unhappy. There's
oh boy.
There was that fun fake story of him going to the strip club with the owner. And
how good was that?
The owner's digging for change. That was great. Fake, but funny. We all know James Harden wants out of Houston. It's turned into a sour situation. Right now, I think the main contenders are he's popping up on Milwaukee's list, and I think Miami's in the running. Will we see James Harden land with an NBA title contender by herself?
Yeah, it's interesting, because whenever they did the trade with Russell Westbrook and brought John Wall over, some people thought, okay, was that, and I even said it, was that James Harden saying, I want John Wall? Or does it actually make more sense that
he's out?
He doesn't want to be with Houston anymore. Yeah. And there was already rumors and talks of him moving on, like Westbrook did. So I'm going to buy it, but I'll tell you who to watch out for. Watch out for the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
Okay? They have a history of going out and getting guys.
And you're not going to have Klay Thompson this year.
Right. They need a shooting guard.
Absolutely.
They have the room to take on James Harden. Okay? I'm telling you, if you look at what's available in terms of can they sign? Yeah, they can sign him.
Yeah,
they could trade for him. And at the same time, look at what Steph Curry. Not a huge Steph Curry fan personally, but look what he's been able to do in terms of working with superstars.
Absolutely.
KD is a big personality and needs a lot of touches. Well, Steph Curry let him come in, and it wasn't like there was this giant power struggle. They worked pretty well together.
Yeah, they did.
So I think the same thing can happen with James Harden. So I will buy it, because I'm telling everybody to watch out for the Golden State Warriors. They're not necessarily in the mix in the rumors that we've heard about quite as much. But yeah, they could swoop in and grab him, so I'll buy that he lands on a contender.
I'll buy it. But I don't know if I would buy him ending up on a title contender that has a superstar guard, because we saw when James, now he wanted to come back to Oklahoma City when he first got traded to Houston.
Don't remind me.
He wanted to come back, and that's one of the most depressing things, especially when you find out he cried. That just breaks my heart. But we found out that he wanted his own, like he wanted to be the guy. He probably should have been the guy other than Russell at the time. But then you get Russell to Houston, and James Harden had his team. He was the guy. They brought in Chris Paul. Chris Paul is a guy. It didn't work. But Harden had been there before. Harden's younger than Chris Paul. So what do? We get rid of Chris Paul. You bring in Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook's not as good a shooter as James Harden, but Russell Westbrook is the guy. Didn't work. You got to get rid of him. And then so you bring in John Wall, and I think they brought in John Wall because Harden wanted out.
Yeah.
So if he goes somewhere, he's going to a Milwaukee where they have
Giannis. Ooh.
But Giannis isn't a guard, and Giannis is a forward. Can you imagine that 1-2 punch?
That would be nasty.
My goodness. Yeah. So I'm going to buy it, but I don't think he goes anywhere with superstar guards.
Okay. My last one, buy or sell, because we've seen ever since the Hail Murray.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray went deep and found DeAndre Hopkins in that prayer against Buffalo. Ever since then, Cardinals haven't won. they've looked like a shell of their former selves offensively, and Kyler Murray the same way. Got his shoulder dinged up against the Seahawks. Pretty good, but claims that it's not an issue anymore. He's healthy. There's been a really sharp decline in his running game. And that was a big reason why they were so successful, because he was running the ball really well. He was scoring touchdowns on the ground. The numbers are a stark difference in these last few games. He insisted today, when they talked to him in the media, that he's not avoiding running the football anymore. You buy or sell? That's true.
Sell. I think that this Kyler never really got hit at Oklahoma. He took a couple shots, and I'm not saying that he can't take hits. I'm not saying that he's scared of getting hit, but he got hit pretty good, and he's been getting hit pretty good, and he's injured. I'm in no way, shape, or form 100% ever comparing myself to Kyler Murray. But when I played football growing up, I wasn't the best player on the team, but I was pretty good. The first injury I ever got was in the 8th grade. And I took, and it wasn't an injury, but it scared the living daylights out of me. I took a knee to the sternum, knocked the breath out of me, and I bruised some ribs. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't move, I couldn't do any, and it hurt, and it scared the daylights out of me. And I that was it. I suffered through the rest of the year, and I never played football again. I quit. That's right, I quit. I was a quitter. But I think Kyler is dealing with a little bit of that. He's like, you know what? I took some good shots. I don't want to do that again right now. I'm not healthy enough to do it. I'm not saying he's scared, but I'm saying that he's not prepared to take hits like that. So I'm selling. I don't think he's telling the truth. I think he's injured, and he's not running the ball. He is avoiding it.
It's so disappointing, because that offense, man, they were fun to watch. Through the first, when they were 3-1 and they got it to a 16-3 start, it was like, man, these guys are legit. Yeah. And then they turned the corner and they got DeAndre Hopkins, and he was getting involved, and it looked really fun. And Kyler Murray was running the ball 10 times a game, and that's for a quarterback. You get 10 carries. That's a lot of carries, man.
Yeah, it's not Lamar Jackson.
No. He had 308 yards. He was averaging and 5 touchdowns on the ground. Okay, since that time, he's rushed 15 times. That's it. And he doesn't look comfortable scrambling, which he really did in the early part of the season. He doesn't look comfortable going deep down the field. Last game, he had 1 completion in the first quarter. 1 completion. Now it was a touchdown, but it was 1 completion. That can't happen, man.
No.
And believe it or not, Cardinals they're really close to falling out of the playoff picture.
I'd be okay with that.
Well, yeah, there'd be a lot of people that would, no doubt. But this is a team that had it all together.
Yeah.
Cliff Kingsbury bothers me sometimes as play calling. I think he's an excellent coach. Really, really fun. In terms of his execution, he's fun to watch. But man, sometimes, and right now, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be handing the ball off as many times to Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake if there's nothing wrong with Kyler Murray. So I don't buy it. Their offense works when he works on the ground. And these last few games, he's clearly not 100%. He doesn't feel comfortable, so I'm with you. He's lying. Yeah. I'm going to sell that he's telling the truth. There's no way he is, because this offense, it looks like something you used to really, really love and cherish.
Yeah.
And you go back a couple of weeks later, and all of a sudden it's, oh, man, whatever happened?
Yeah, injuries cause a mental block.
They do.
I don't, it's one of those things, and this is kind of still on topic because it's about Cliff Kingsbury. I caught a lot of grief from Jason and Robert going back, I think it was 2 Big 12 media days ago. Cliff Kingsbury's obviously a handsome fella, right?
I would agree with that.
And he's rich.
We'll never forget the shot of his house on draft night last year.
So Cliff Kingsbury, you catch yourself wondering, like, man, that guy's super rich. I wonder what kind of cologne he wears. Cliff Kingsbury wears really, really expensive, nice-smelling cologne.
Of course he does.
And I made the mistake of phrasing it like, damn, man, Cliff Kingsbury, man, he smelled pretty good. I was like, I wonder what kind of cologne he wears. Because you're like, I wonder what kind of cologne Brad Pitt wears. I wonder what kind of cologne Leo wears. Well, Cliff Kingsbury wears some pretty damn good cologne, and I want to know. But just don't say he smells good, because you'll never hear the end of it. But he did. Damn, he did.
Wow. He just looks like a guy that would smell good.
Right? That was my point.
I don't blame you
at all. He just looks like he smells good.
There's just guys where you look at him and say, you look like
you smell really good.
And they do, and you're like, nice.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You want to ride in the car with him?
You want to take him to Bad Brad's barbecue?
You better believe you do.
Oh, appreciate them. Yeah, get your turkey, get your Christmas ham. Deadline is December 21st. You got to get that done. When we come back, interesting story out of one college football team that says, we're not going to a bowl game. We're going to tell you the reason why it may be different than what you think. That's coming up next on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Show brought to you by Bad Brad's Barbecue. They have breakfast, and you don't want to miss it. It's brand new. The stuff that I've heard them describe is what, on the menu. Oh, brisket biscuits.
Brisket biscuit. You probably get a brisket breakfast burrito. I had a breakfast burrito this morning. Unfortunately, it wasn't from Bad Brad's, so it was it was just okay.
That's right.
But I had until I went out there before the Tulsa game, and they were explaining what breakfast was, and they were still renovating. They were still putting it together. The thought had never crossed my mind to have brisket for breakfast. Could you imagine a better breakfast meat than Bad Brad's brisket?
I really can't.
Because you would have to think that they'd have those smokers going all night, and you get it fresh off the smoker.
Yeah. Oh, it's incredible.
Gosh.
Yeah, and they're open 5 to 11 for breakfast, 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. So you can get there early and get it Saturday, Sunday, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. They're open Sundays till 3 p.m. now. You can get all that through the drive-thru, lunch and dinner as well. And Monday through Saturday, they're open 11 to 9 p.m. 5302 West 6th, Bad Brad's Barbecue. So an interesting story today out of college football. Yeah. It comes out of Boston College in the ACC. And as we know, this year, all teams are bowl eligible. Mm-hmm. All a bowl has to say is, hey, we want you to come over and play. You can not win a game and go to a bowl. So Boston College, up and down season, they've never been a true college football, powerhouse by any means of the ACC.
Flutie days.
Yeah. So, but they've had
okay.
Yeah, this season hasn't been bad at all in terms of winning games. A lot of people thought they would lose.
They probably beat Michigan.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's true. Well, don't even get me started on that. So yeah, and they have decided to go ahead and decline going to a bowl game this year. Instead, they're going to send their team home to be with family over the holiday and all that.
I'm okay with it, and here's why. Because you look at these major programs, and I don't know what the Boston College policies were. There's been a lot of schools that they haven't been lax, but they've allowed more than others. So you look at Oklahoma State, and if you go through the Oklahoma State Flickr account, or maybe you see some photos on Twitter from the family or from the players, there's a good amount of Oklahoma State players that get to see their families after the game. And Gundy even says it. In his post-game pressers, Gundy's like, we're going to give the players the rest of the night off, go be with their friends, go be with their family, and we're going to come back tomorrow morning, we're going to get back to work. The quote that I read was from the Boston College, I want to say the athletic director. The Boston College football players have not seen their families since June. Now, some people might not think that's a big deal, but think back to when you were 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. This is the first time you've ever been away from mom, first time you've ever been away from dad. You got to do your own. They probably get their laundry done, but you're eating in the dorms, you're eating fast food. You haven't seen your mom or your dad or your grandparents. You're in the middle of a terrible pandemic, and the mental toll on kids, and most football players are rather social. They're going out, they're hanging out with people. You can't do it. You go to practice. I doubt you go to class, and you go to lunch, and you go back to practice, and then you go home, and you go back to your dorms. You go back to your rooms, and you maybe have a roommate, maybe two, but you're alone. You're isolated. You don't get to go out and enjoy that college life because you can't jeopardize the season. Boston College is not Clemson. Boston College is in Alabama or Ohio State or Notre Dame or any other team that may or may not have a chance to play for a national championship or a conference championship. Boston College, and an interesting aspect that I saw is it's not going to be a normal bowl game. There's not going to be the potential. Like, there's some bowl games that throw parades. There's not going to be the normal pageantry. I know last year down at the Texas Bowl, the NFR is going on right now. Last year, the NFR was going on during the Texas Bowl, so they got to team up with the Texas Bowl. And Texas A&M and Oklahoma State got to get cowboy hats, and they did like cowboy games. And then you get gift cards, and you get gift suites, and you get to go shopping and this and that. You're not doing that this year. There's a lot of bowl games that don't even want fans in the stands, So I'm all for this decision from Boston College. Let the kids go home, let them be with friends, let them be with family. And honestly, I don't think this is going to be the last school you see decline that because of that situation.
What's the main point of non-major bowl games in general?
Oh, just to have fun.
Advertisements and to have fun.
Advertisement, you get some fun gifts, you go to a fun location and enjoy the last game of the season.
They're for teams that can celebrate having a decent season, not ever having a shot to make the playoff.
Or a conference championship.
That's the only reason. And like you said, during a normal year, I mean, you look at some of the bigger bowls too that are, near 6, but maybe even a little less than that. These guys, like you said, we're seeing guys get TVs, gift cards, which is funny, because they can't receive anything else from anybody else. Absolutely. But all of a sudden, the bowl games, because we're getting money here, paying money. Okay with it's fine. They can have it here. So I
let them get $1,000 Best Buy gift card.
I always thought that was interesting. So I mean, do NFL scouts really need to see one more game of someone to make a decision? No. So I am completely understanding of this as well. This is fine with me. When I read that story that they hadn't been there since June, and by the way, this is a team, I think they said the 5 conference wins they had this year, it's like the most since 2009. Yeah. So it's a successful Boston College season this year. It really is. So I respect the decision, but here's what I would say is, in some of the articles I've read, they're blaming it on, the Boston College is not doing this because of the rising COVID numbers.
Right.
No, they're not doing this because they're haven't seen their parents since June.
Yeah.
They haven't seen their families in months. Like, that sucks. Okay, when I heard that, I felt really, really bad. Just call it what it is. Just call it we don't. If you're a team like Boston College, you could honestly say we don't care about playing this game this year.
Well, you look at Oklahoma State, and the players show back up on campus. They have school till like April, and then they get a month off. They're back in June, and then Gundy gives them like 2 or 3 weeks before fall camp.
Yeah,
and then you get fall break, and then you get Thanksgiving, then you get Christmas. So I mean, there's so many opportunities. 6 months is a really long time, and because of COVID, they can't do anything.
Right,
so it's not even like they can go to a party or go hang out with a girlfriend or anything like that. They're locked up. They can't do anything.
That's why it would be completely fine for me if, like you said, a lot of teams did this.
Well, and it was, and I think what's most important about this is it was a player decision.
Yeah,
there was a team meeting, and the players decided.
And that's what I'm saying. You get your teams together, and your coaches say, "Hey guys, are you okay with
this?" Now I know it would be disappointing, and I'm really sorry, and someone's going to be yelling at the radio. I can't remember what his name was, but Oklahoma State got a transfer. 3 or 4 years ago, maybe a little bit. It was when they played in the Sugar Bowl, I think. I don't remember when it was, but they had a player 3 or 4 years ago that had never played in a bowl game, and so there are players across the country that this bowl game is a conference championship. It is a national championship because they've never played in a bowl game when they transfer to a program. So in that aspect, it is disappointing. But I would have to think that seeing your family for the first time in 6 months and being able to hug them and being able to give them a kiss and have mom's cooking would have to be better feeling than getting a $300 gift card, a watch with a Cheez-It Bowl logo on it, and a duffel bag.
That's what, you made a good point, because a lot of the fanfare is a big reason why these teams enjoy playing these bowl games.
Well, the bowl game teams up with the city, and there's attractions and all. That's not happening.
No. And so there's really, that's why I'm saying, I would say that to my guys too. I'd be like, hey, if you guys want to go home, man.
Absolutely.
I mean, I completely get it. It's just like Eamon said yesterday. It's like, man, by the way, I haven't seen my mom, my parents since like last January.
Well, and this might
that sucks.
I know we need to take a break, so I just have one last thing, and I this might be a little taboo. This might get me into a little bit of trouble. I'm not a fan of the numerous amount of bowl games. I'm not going to turn on the Boca Raton Bowl.
I agree.
Or the Pinstripe Bowl. There's way too many bowls that's so watered down that it just, to me, it just doesn't mean as much as it used to.
They're fan specific,
and I get that there's so much money involved. There's a lot of them were created by ESPN, a lot of them were created by Fox to get money and to sell ads. I don't want to watch Northern Idaho play Hawaii in the Bahamas.
Speaking of Taboo, because we love Taboo,
love it.
Remember, was it last year or a year ago? There was an adult film website that was bidding on a name for the bowl.
Yeah,
and I forgot what it was.
Yeah, it was like it was last year, or the year before.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, if ever they needed an excuse to limit the bowls, it's because we don't want to have to try to sell it to something like.
There was one last year.
Barstool tried to do it too.
I would be okay with that.
I would too. I don't mind that.
No,
but
there was one like 2 or 3 years ago that was. Like they had like 3 sponsors. It was the most ridiculous thing. Like I like football. I don't want to wake up at 6 a.m. and watch 16 hours of crap.
Those bowls are fan specific.
Absolutely.
If Oklahoma State got some name,
the Cheez-It Bowl would be a good example.
There's not. I'm sorry, but how many people that aren't Oklahoma State fans are going to tune in to the Cheez-It Bowl?
I have never watched the Cheez-It Bowl.
Sorry, but it's just how it is. We come back on the afternoon sports drive. We're going to tell you what we learned on this Thursday. It's next. Welcome back to the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. We're rounding out the show here on this Thursday. Show brought to you by Bad Brad's Barbecue. Appreciate them as always. And to get to our last segment here, what do we learn?
The day is coming to an end. Time to find out if these two got any smarter.
The question is, what did you learn?
Let's find out what the guys learned today on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Well, I learned something today.
All right, you want to know what I learned, Zach?
Oh, yeah, I do. It's probably the same thing I learned.
So, I saw the news like pretty early before we went on to our show. But every single year, you get the NFL teams handing out Walter Payton Man of the Year awards.
Mm-hmm.
They pick a player who they think has best shown it on the field.
Someone like J.J. Watt that's raised tens of millions of dollars for needy people.
It's what they've done on the field combined with what they've done off the field. And, yeah, just like you said, J.J. Watt is next level.
So do we have a background on what this person has done?
Oh, we have a background.
Okay, good. That's perfect, because I was really curious about that.
So the Cleveland Browns select Myles Garrett as the Walter Payton Man of the Year. Now, what is Myles Garrett known for? Well, how about attempted murder on Mason Rudolph last year? Now, I get it. There's going to be people that go, it's a different year. And guys can move on. Wait a second. There's some things that happen in sports that are so egregious and next level, hard to come back from, that things that you can control, by the way.
Yeah.
That you can say, all right, I don't care how many years later it is, Myles Garrett could have turned his life around and become a better person. Whatever. But you're really telling me that this year he's turned it around all the way, that he deserves a Walter Payton Man of the Year award?
I think a good example of that is, and I know you don't follow NASCAR, but back in the spring, after everything was shut down, NASCAR decided to do like e-races. They decided to do...
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going. Yep.
Kyle Larson raced for Chip Ganassi Racing, thought he was talking to one person, come to find out his mic was on overall. Well, Kyle Larson is half Japanese, half white. Kyle Larson dropped the N-word. Trying to get a hold of somebody.
Yep.
And it was terrible. It wasn't like it wasn't on this was on television. This was everyone. A lot of people saw this. The only thing is, and at the time, I didn't really care for Kyle Larson to begin with, but then I was just like, forget Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson apologized. He released a really heartfelt, sincere apology because he's experienced a lot of racism because of his Japanese heritage in racing, and disappeared. That was it. He wasn't on social media. He wasn't on the news. He was nowhere. What he did was he would go into inner cities, or he would team up. Like I think he went up to Minnesota and he joined up with an I can't even remember what it is, but he would pass out dinners and boxed food and help raise awareness and raise money and all this. And he did that for months with zero recognition. The news stations didn't know he was there. Nothing. And then after several months, he was approached and he did an interview, and he went through several months of mandatory and involuntary racist I don't even know what it's called, I guess it was like racist management classes. I can't think of what it's called.
Yeah.
Insensitivity courses, and stuff like that. And he was reinstated, and you can tell that he sincerely, regrets what he did, and then he's turned his life around. You don't almost commit murder and the next year get a Player of the Year, a Walter Payton Player of the Year, because that's a massive award. That's not like the Oklahoma State awards that they give out in-house, at the end of the football season. Well, you're our team MVP for what you've done on and off. This is a league-wide. This is a big thing.
Yeah.
Huge thing. That just doesn't happen.
The thing that gets me is that there were people, of course there were people, that immediately defended what Myles Garrett did.
Oh, yeah.
And people are like, is it really, can we really call it attempted murder? Is it really that extreme?
Walk down the street with a football helmet and smoke someone in the head with it and see if you don't go to prison.
Mason Rudolph to this day is thanking his lucky stars or whoever and whatever he believes in that helmet wasn't turned the other way.
Yeah.
Had it been hit on the crown of the helmet, it could have split his head open.
Yeah.
We may have actually watched a murder on live television.
Yeah.
He was lucky the padded part came down on him like he did. I'm sure that still hurt like what.
Oh, yeah.
But Myles Garrett, and then what made it worse in the whole situation was he had a chance to do a Kyle Larson thing and publicly come out and say, you know what, and maybe he did. I don't know. I'm going to take some anger management classes.
After a while.
Yeah, but the thing that made it worse was all this was going on, and then a few days later, what do we find out? Myles Garrett goes, oh, by the way, Mason Rudolph did call me I heard a racial slur in there. That's what it was.
Everyone doubled down, too.
Everyone said, wait a minute. Why wasn't that put out there? Why wasn't that put out there initially? And there was no answer for it. Like, well, it's just it's just something that I heard. I heard it. And the NFL's like, no, we did an investigation. There's no proof of that. So that made it even worse. Myles Garrett trying to play the race card. And so I lost all respect for him. When I look at Kyle Larson and his situation, I can say, hey, you know what? When I think of Kyle Larson after the day he retires, will the only thing I think about in his career be when he dropped the N-word? No. I'm sure it'll come up in my mind, like, yeah, I remember when that happened. But hopefully I can remember that he's also getting to race again. What happens when Myles Garrett retires? Does everybody else think, Myles Garrett, he was a fantastic defensive player. He was really good at rushing the passer. He was Walter Payton Man of the Year award. No, they're going to think he almost killed Mason Rudolph on a football field. Myles Garrett is not a good person. I don't care what it is. That if there was something said, we'll never know. You don't swing your helmet at a guy's open head. You just don't. It's something we've never seen before. It's completely wild. I was calling for his suspension for a long time. Like, should he even be able to play football again? And people that have heard this show know that I'm the guy that's completely for second chances. And I talked about it yesterday with Tom Brenneman. He drops a gay slur on the hot mic, and I hope he's able to come back and make it again. But this is the one thing that's crossed the line for me. You do something as stupid as that, why should you ever get a second chance? Nothing. I mean, clearly something's not right in your head, dude. So what this is ultimately is the Browns trying to act like he's turned this corner and they've noticed it. No, this is jumping the gun. This is overdoing it. This is overstating everything, and it's completely blatant. And you can never convince me that Myles Garrett deserves any type of Walter Payton award for the man that he is on and off the field. We all know what he is. He's borderline criminal. It is an absolute disaster. But leave it to the Browns to do something like that. Terrible organizations will continue to be terrible organizations, bottom line. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. That's Zach Lancaster. I'm Patrick Wheeler. Appreciate everybody tuning in today. We'll be back tomorrow with Levi Peckinpah. We got a lot of good stuff coming up on the show tomorrow, so make sure to tune in for that. Don't forget, Bad Brad's Barbecue. You need a dinner? It's coming up on dinner time. Go to Bad Brad's. You can go through the drive-thru, pick up whatever you need. Get that prime rib ordered. They only have 10 of them left. 10 of them. Get your turkeys, get your Christmas hams before the 21st. Time's running out, so make sure you get it done. They're still open today until 9 p.m. You got 4 more hours to get there and get your dinner. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Back tomorrow. Everybody have a great rest of your Thursday.